Hey classes, Mr. Hayes here on Friday, October 9th. Today I'd like to talk with you about the final revision process for the poem that we are choosing to publish for our poetry presentation project. Oh, a little alliteration there. And I'd like to go through the steps that a really good poet takes to make sure that their work is the best possible for publishing, and also the elements that are going to align to the rubric, which I will be grading you on for this poem. So if you go to today's module, and as you can see here, this is the poem I'm choosing to publish, which is my imagery poem about the baseball win that I wrote on Tuesday. If you go to today's module, you're going to see a basic checklist, 6 things that you need to look over your poem for to make sure you've included. So it's published ready. And as you can see here, it's 6 very simple things. Number 1, include 2+ examples of figurative language within your poem. Now, some of you may already have that. For me, I think I do. I've got the morning dew hugging the turf field. And I know I had another personification. Yes, Jack's ball has eyes, meaning it's going quickly and has a destination in mind. And I've even got an onomatopoeia with the ping of the bat. So I've fulfilled my obligation for 2+, but I want to push myself a little bit. So maybe I'll find a place where I can add another. What I like to do is hone in on the action words. Usually you can make an action word into a simile or a metaphor. And I've got one here, entire season flashes by. What things flash, maybe a spark. So to make it sound, to match up syllable wise with the other lines, I don't want to make this too long. So I'll take out entire and I'll do season flashes by like a spark. One play as the final test. Be careful with changing the end of your lines to create figurative language because you might mess up the rhyme scheme you had set out. Like originally I was thinking about maybe adjusting, hit as sharply as attack, but it would change my rhyme scheme. So just be aware of that. Be careful. So there we go. I've got another simile here and I fulfilled my obligation for number 1. Number 2, include details and descriptions which tap into some of the reader's 5 senses. Well, lucky for me, I chose my imagery poem, which means I've already done that to as much of a degree as I possibly could. If you remember, I had the brats cooked and the seeds spit, which is taste and smell. I've got sight, the parents crowding the bleachers, going home with the trophy, feeling that metal trophy in my hand. I had metal in there, but the line got too long, so I did take that out. But you can see where I'm going here with all the different kinds of sensory detail and imagery that I've been able to capture. I think I'm good here. I've been able to do all that I wanted to do with that. I'm just going to make it consistent and bold. So I've got 2 done. Now I move on to 3. Connect your poem to a theme or motif of some kind. Now, some of this you may already have done. For example, the I am from poems are about identity. We did a whole day on struggle. Maybe you chose your struggle poem. So you already captured a theme or motif there. For me, I'm looking at both relief and also resilience as 2 themes or motifs in my poem. The tension that built up here and then the final relief of actually winning and doing something that not a lot of people expected of us. But also the resilience the team showed, especially if you knew the background of what happened in this game and leading up to this game. The resilience of defeating a really worthy opponent, coming out on top, and overcoming adversity, especially given it was an extra inning game in the 9th inning, makes us feel really made us feel really good in the moment, and I still think about it and smile. So, got some relief and resilience mixed in here for my motifs. Make attempts to improve your word choice. I've got a list here to avoid these words. Now, I'm a little extreme by calling them banned words. There might be a time and place for some of these once in a while, but you don't want to get used to using words like a lot and good and happy and said and things. These are words that there's going to be a synonym for that's much better, much more effective, and much more descriptive. So I would revise and make sure that in your poem you don't have any of those types of words. As I look at mine, even a word like hard, I can probably do a little bit better than that. Look through here, hit, maybe I can do struck or something like that. Just I would go through and maybe do italics or underline and highlight or identify, I should say, some of the words one play as maybe ones that you could do a little bit better. Finds Austin's minute, kind of want to keep that. There's not a whole lot here because I'm used to writing with word choice in mind. But for some of you, if you look through your poem and you see hot, little, mad, nice, pretty, ran, etc., those are words you can probably do a little bit better. And then 5 is trying multiple forms and formats for your poem. So for me, I'd like to divide this up into some stanzas. So it's a 12-line poem, so it would make sense is to do 4, 4, and 4 for my stanzas. And it kind of works out with the progression of the poem too. It's almost like a timeline here. You've got the pregame, you've got the during the game, and then even though I got the final play here, you've got sort of the encapsulation of all this, the end game, the climax, and then the falling action of the trophy in hand. So I think it makes sense to divide it this way. And then it also says font style. So, for this, if you have a font that you think fits really well with your poem, you can do that. That might be an option. But for me, I'm going to try some different colors. And I'm going to try to associate the colors with the feeling of a team in that moment. So here we've got sort of the pregame tension and the nervousness that's pervasive. So I think I'm going to go with uh, sort of a darker color. Maybe I'll stick with black, but I think gray might even be better. I'm going to go with gray there. And then we start to believe, and we're right there in the game, but we're still nervous. We're still tense. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. We're right in the game. We might win. And it's the bottom of the ninth. So I'm going to do a little bit lighter. Things are brightening up a little bit. So how about we do a little bit of a lighter, almost like a silver? That's kind of hard to read. So let's go with, that's even worse. So you got to play around and kind of experiment with this a little bit. I want to progress to eventually a gold for the trophy. So maybe we'll do yellow as kind of a nice middle ground there. Just want to make it readable. There we go. There we go. And then finally, that gold color. In fact, maybe I'll even highlight. That would be cool. Now that we finally won, it kind of takes you through the colors match the emotions and the feelings of what's going on throughout the poem. And then lastly, revise for spelling and capitalization. Please do not have spelling errors, especially on Google Docs where it has a little squiggly line under that's just careless. Make sure you're revising for that. And then, of course, capitalization, proper nouns. Even I've noticed in your CQAs, names of books and names of characters, you're not capitalizing. There's no excuse for that. So even in a poem, if you name someone, a friend, a neighbor, a parent, someone that's involved in your poem, make sure those names are capitalized. Proper nouns like settings, etc. Punctuation is a little tricky with poetry. You don't have to have perfect punctuation. For some of these lines, for example, are sentence fragments. But just make sure it's not glaringly obvious where you've got a run-on sentence. There's no reason for that in poetry when you can divide it up into lines and different stanzas. So make sure you are revising as best you can for those elements. And then you're ready to move on and think about Adobe Spark and how you might capture this on your slideshow. So that is the conclusion of my video. Make sure today over the next 25, 30 minutes in class or at home to go through this checklist and revise your poem to make sure it's got all the parts of the rubric and you've done it to the best of your ability. Thanks, everybody.